Natalie Harms with CoStar News Hotels, and I am reporting from the 2026 Hunter Conference in Atlanta today, and I'm speaking with Wayne West, President at Newport Hospitality Group. Wayne, thanks so much for taking a break from the conference to chat with me.
It is great to sit down with you. I enjoyed it. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, let's start off with just how's business for Newport Hospitality?
You know, if you look at this year, I think we started off a bit slow in January, but if you remember, we had a couple of ice storms on the East Coast. February was better. March is shockingly good.
Okay.
So I'm encouraged to see what the rest of the year will do, because March really has started off strong.
Yeah, I think maybe everyone's defrosting. We're coming out of our...
Well, I listened to Chris Nassetta yesterday, and he said that for the first time, he said he started seeing a turnaround last December.
Okay.
And I hadn't heard that, but he gave some data points and said, maybe we are getting better, healthier in the industry.
Yeah. So with that in mind, how are you looking at growth, this year into the new and into the near future? I know your portfolio is heavily centered on the East Coast. So what markets are you looking at for opportunities?
Well, we're typically a tertiary portfolio owner. We don't own in DC, but we own outside of DC. We don't own in downtown Philly, but we have half a dozen hotels in the outside the Philly markets. We're up and down the 95 corridor. We're not in downtown Jacksonville, Florida, but we're on the beach in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. So we've had a lot of success in these just right off the major city markets, and continue to. That's where we own hotels. That's where most of our portfolio is.
Okay.
So we find that some of the hotels, some of the travelers, some of the interstate travelers love this great select service hotels in these markets where they don't have to stay in a downtown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so any I guess region that you want to expand in?
Well, I think we love the Virginia and the Carolinas, and in Georgia and Florida in particular. That's where the bulk of our hotels are. Mm-hmm. We like those markets, but so does everyone else. Yeah. It's nothing new.
Gotcha. All right, well, what about the development side of business? What sort of trends have you observed in this space? How's that business been?
I think for us this year, we have 2 letters of intent out right now. One, oddly enough, in Florida, and one in the Virginia area. So they're, again, in our core spots in our area. I think and as many of us in the industry, we've been chasing a lot of deals. And it seems like the gap between the seller and the buyer is shortening. Money is not an issue anymore. I don't care what anyone says. Truly, if you want to find money and you've got a good deal, you can make a deal today. Some of the questionable deals maybe are a little more difficult, but if you've got a good hotel and you've got a good story, we buy a lot of hotels we want to try to reposition, whether it's through capital or management changes or just a different style of customer coming into the building. So there's plenty of opportunity there for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, you say, I don't care what anybody says, there's money out there for deals. What's affecting that perception that it's hard to get?
Well, I think we've just come off of pretty high interest rates, and there was a gap between the buyer and the seller. And I think as the interest rates have come down, buyers still want to buy and sellers still want to sell, and the lenders don't make money unless they're transacting. So I think there's an eagerness in the industry to find a good deal and do it. So I didn't mean, I wasn't flippant when I said they don't care, but in the sense of, if you have a good deal, you've been a good owner, you've got a good history, you can find the appropriate lender to fit the box you want to buy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, so renovations, repositionings, is this something you're seeing more of? I know we've reported on a little bit more of that happening.
Yeah, my partner Andrew Carey had an article out recently when they asked him about development, and one of his points was, if you find the right hotel, you should buy it, and it pencils. But we're looking at internally in our portfolio and saying, well, maybe we need to spend X number of dollars and reposition the hotel, and maybe we can make it more competitive in the market versus buying one or versus transacting that hotel. So we've really taken a hard look at renovations, whether it's through improving your food and beverage operation, whether it's improving some of the quality, or just how you market the hotel to a different client.
Yeah, I know you've been in the business for a long time, and with that context,
not that long, but yes, okay.
Okay. Well, you've been around the block. So
I have.
With that context, what do you make of where the industry is today, the headwinds and tailwinds we've seen last year and these first few months of this year?
I think the headwinds have been the interest rates. I think in the last 2 years there's been a lot of noise in the economy, and I think some uncertainty. I think our Canadian travel, we have a lot in the Northeast and all the way down through the 95 corridor. I think the Canadian travel has hurt us. It really has. So I think that's improving, but I think that's going to be a long time in healing that relationship. I think the headwinds we're facing is the cost of labor versus our ability to drive RevPAR. Our industry enjoyed tremendous years of RevPAR growth, and all of a sudden it sort of got quiet. And we were spoiled by that, and we enjoyed that, and the owners benefited because of that. So now we have to reset expectations and find great associates to work with us. But the cost of talent, getting the right talent versus the growth in RevPAR is a little, upside down right now.
I guess, kind of in that context, you're working with, brands and other owners and you're in the industry. What's top of mind for them?
And someone said it on one of the panels yesterday. We have a whiteboard in our office, an old-fashioned whiteboard. And about 3 years ago, I wrote in big red letters, talent wins. And I think identifying the on-property talent is critical to the success of the hotel. So we benchmark our hires off of our best general managers. So we'll go out, and there's a company we work with in particular, and he'll literally do a test on them, say, how does this person's history and his interview relate to your best performers? So finding the right talent is critical. I think finding the right owner partner is critical for our success and their success. We've got to make sure that from a partnership perspective, we're aligned.
Yeah. I know for the past, I don't even know, over a year, been talking about the World Cup. How do you see that affecting, business this year?
We have several hotels on the periphery of Philadelphia. So we're planning, and we believe that will be a positive impact. It seems to be slowing down, but there again, there's a lot of noise in the geopolitical sense right now that may or may not affect that. We've got a lot of pre-bookings in the Philly area, so we're very happy with what we've seen so far, but until it comes, I'm just not sure it's certainly not going to save our year. It's going to positively impact our year, and we'll just see how much that is by the end of the event.
Yeah, so it's not something the industry as a whole, and definitely not you, should kind of bet on being.
No, I think we were prepared for it. We set our rates appropriately. We've gone out and seeked group business that would fit appropriately in those times. But yeah, I think it'll be a nice boon for the industry this year, but I don't think it doesn't save your year or kill your year either way.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, we've talked about a lot. What is top of mind for you? What's keeping you up at night?
Well, I kind of mentioned earlier, nothing keeps me up at night but my puppy, when he's ready to get up and go out. I think I'll go back to talent acquisition. I think the most important thing we can do is recruit the right people. And then we quit using the word training, and we want to coach and teach and mentor. And I stole that line from somebody, so I can't give it attribution, but if we teach people and we coach people, we mentor them correctly, and we've identified them and we give them an environment to work in where they can be successful, the hotel will be wildly successful. So if anything keeps me up at night, it's making sure that we've got the right leaders on the property. And we're very proud, we have a lot of great leaders in our property today.
Well, that is a fantastic way to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me today, Wayne.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your
Very
conference.
nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Good to be with you.
Hi, I'm Davon Reed.
I'm Omari Head.
And I'm Chris Henry.
We're the hosts of the Next Gen and Lodging podcast on the Hotel News Now podcast network. It's a monthly show in which we interview a new generation of hoteliers to get their insights into a variety of disciplines and topics, from finance to food and beverage and hotel operations. Listen to us on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of the CoStar News Hotels podcast was recorded on March 17th, 2026 by Meredith Sheridan at the 2026 Hunter Conference and was edited for the podcast by me, Natalie Harms. Find all hotel industry news at costar.com/hotelnews. Thanks for listening.